Thank you so much for coming. It means a lot to me. I also wanted to thank Professor Art Blazer and Professor Beth Heller for setting this up and hosting this whole screening, inviting me to come. Then a big shout out to my husband Marcus Bohn. He composed the whole music for the film. Also to my two best friends, Frank and Brent, they are right over there. They are also in the film. So Brent is the kind of friend who brings you stuffed animals when you're crying in pain on the floor, which happened a couple of days ago. And Frank is an amazing filmmaker from Germany who also filmed my parts in the film. So, we start watching the film very soon, but I just wanted to tell you a little story before we do. So yesterday we went to Disneyland. I was super excited about going there because, I've been dreaming of going there since I've been 6 years old, sitting in my German living room and watching a show called The Disney Club. But I was also pretty worried because I knew that I had to rent a wheelchair. I can't really walk or stand for too long, and I knew if I wanted to enjoy Disneyland, I had to overcome my worries and rent a wheelchair. I'm not afraid of using a wheelchair itself, so in fact I know that assistive devices are super helpful for me and many other people with EDS. And I also know that if I would use one more regularly, I would feel less pain, probably be more independent, but I'm not using one yet. And the reason for this is how I've been treated in the past by the people around me every time I did. I can hardly recall how many times I've been called a faker, for example, for using a wheelchair at the airport for the long distance, and then walking the short remaining distance to the plane or to the restroom. So once I was actually asked if I really needed to use a wheelchair or if I just wanted to pre-board so I could bring more carry-on luggage. Another time I was called lazy because people assumed that I just didn't want to walk even though I could. These days I often force myself to walk or to stand because the physical consequences this causes are easier to tolerate than the hurtful comments and looks by the people around me. But these situations don't only happen at airports, they are basically ever present. When I don't get up at the metro for an elderly lady, I usually get called out for being disrespectful. If I ask for a seat myself, which I rarely do, I usually get ignored. So why is that? Because people don't see that I live with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a connective tissue disorder that pretty much affects my whole body. Every joint, my blood vessels, my inner organ, just everything. They also don't see the many other chronic conditions I live with every day. Nobody can see any of these conditions because they're invisible. They don't offer any apparent signs for people to see. Not the pain, not the instability of the joints, not the chronic fatigue, the exhaustion, not the rising heart rate as soon as you get up, and also not the brain fog that prevents you from speaking or thinking clearly. Reliving this experience all over again and pretty much every time when I would leave the safety of my own apartment is annoying at best and traumatizing at worst. I started to feel invisible as a person, and for a long time I thought about how I could make my invisible challenges visible for the outside world. And this leads us to pretty much why you're here today. So in 2018 I started to study journalism in Edinburgh, Scotland. And the moment I signed up for the degree, I knew what I wanted to do for my master's thesis. I wanted to produce a film about an invisible condition, specifically Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I had never held a camera in my life before, I had never filmed and had no idea about documentary filmmaking, but I knew that our voices needed to be heard. And I was just hoping everything else would fall into place. So I bought a camera, I contacted people all over the world, and then I filmed in 6 different countries. So I filmed in Germany, the United States, the Netherlands, Belgium, Malta, and the UK. My main goal was to represent the invisibly disabled community in an accurate way, but also to show our non-disabled friends, families, and just the people around us what we are, what we are dealing with every day. Overall, I worked on this film for 14 months, and I never expected the huge resonance it would get. It started out as this small student film which I thought would only be seen by my teachers and maybe a few other people. But then all of a sudden it became the most important thing I've ever done in my life. Producing a film about chronically ill people as a disabled filmmaker comes with quite some challenges, as you can imagine. But I really don't want to complain, because I've gained so much more than I have lost. Every one of the contributors of We Are Visible taught me so much, and in a way, by seeing that all their experiences are so similar to mine, I felt validated and accepted for the first time in years. Turns out filming people that know exactly what you go through and that can interpret the tiniest facial expression of pain is such an advantage, because sometimes they would just force me to take a break and make me a cup of coffee. Other times we would just lie down together and laugh about the irony of a filmmaker too exhausted to film and the film's main subjects too tired to move. In retrospect, I really feel like I should have included this footage in the film, because it shows very clearly how far we go to raise awareness. They all let me be part of their families, and they shared their most private moments with me. And every time I asked them why they would do this, they would answer the same way. They said, because the people around us need to see this in order to understand us. During some interviews, we just collectively started crying. Her because she was reliving a traumatizing situation, and I because I was so furious of what she was going through. When the film was finished and ready to be released, I completely crashed. Pushing myself so far has taken a huge toll on me, and I haven't really recovered ever since. But I still don't regret any of it. And you know why? Because of all of you who are here today. Because I believe all of you want to be seen just like I wanted to be seen, and all the people in the film wanted to be seen. And we deserve to be seen. And we all deserve to be heard. Every one of our voices matters, and our experiences are valid. And today shows that we are anything but invisible. We are visible.
Yeah.